Chapter 8. My eyes drifted open. The burning agony of the damage inflicted on my stomach, now only a dull prickle from the numbing effect of the liquid X. I only saw one person in the room with me, letting me know that this time I was indeed awake and not dreaming. Mitch stood at the bottom of the rail of the bed, running a blade over it. The metal-on-metal scrape made me clench my jaw tight, almost to the point of pain. My head hurt, my body hurt, and my heart hurt. And that sound was only making them hurt more. His eyes met mine and he smirked, nodding for what reason I had no idea. "You're awake. For a minute there I thought I'd given you too much," he explained as he watched me, his eyes never once leaving my face despite my fully exposed body before him. "No such luck," I said as my voice gave a little, pointing to the fact that I had screamed my throat raw and I hadn't had any water in what felt like days. "That's a shame." He looked down at the blade in his hands and back up to me. "For you anyways. We have so much more in store for you. It would be a shame if he killed you already." "If killing my soul doesn't count, then you've got a ways to go," I answered. "It's nice to see that we haven't completely snuffed out the attitude. Means there's even more fun in store. I can't say you'll benefit from it, but your hand sure gets a kick out of it." "Like the others?" I asked. His statement only begged the question, and I couldn't help myself. He nodded. "I'll admit, we both had our time with these women, but I've let Johan handle you until now. You'll be back. But I wanted to cut in just long enough to break you. I've been tortured and raped. I'm still in one piece. What makes you think you can?" "Your hand can hurt someone with the best of them. But I'm known in our circles for being able to break the strongest person. Or monster, as it were." He chuckled and walked toward me, curling his knife in his hand so it caught the dim light in a threatening way. "This," he used the blade to point to the long gash down my stomach, "is nothing compared to what I have in store for you. I may even let your hand come back and have another crack at the beautiful body of yours before we kill you." I tried to back away from him as he moved closer. Even I knew it would do no good, but I was still cuffed to the bed, and I didn't see that changing any time soon. Hyde had told me to fight them, but how would I ever have the chance? Was it physical strength, or some kind of inner strength she was begging me to call on? I had even admitted to Hyde that I didn't believe in myself enough to get out of this. But could I find the will to do it? Was it basic human instinct to fight to survive? But with a past like mine, that kind of drive was even harder to come by. Could I gain that with this experience? I guess we would see. The fear was back as the blade glinted in the light again, drawing my attention from my even darker thoughts. I tried to retreat into them, but Mitch wouldn't have that. He was going to break me, and that would require my full attention. "Please, Mitch, you don't have to do this," I begged as he moved even closer, the blade out and pointed directly at me. "But I do. See, I'm like you, Blythe. I have something in me that compels me to torture and to kill. You're nothing like me. He laughed, the sound of high and maniacal as it bounced off the walls. You couldn't be more right. I'm just sick. You, he pointed out at me with the blade, you're something else entirely. Is that how you justify what you do? Absolutely. Something moved behind his eyes, something wicked. And he smiled again. The light reached his eyes and the darkness within him shifted again. He was human and as sick and twisted as they came. That was the absolute truth. Well, that's in the fact that I like it. His greedy eyes moved over the length of my body and then settled on my eyes once again, the smile on his face becoming even more threatening. What would your boss do if he found out what you were doing? I wanted to stall him. Needed to stall him. But it didn't work. Oh dear. Well, you pose an interesting question, but... He paused, wiggling a finger at me like I was a naughty child. You're stalling. He's interested in you, doesn't stop what has to be done. What I need to do. He hit me, my face stinging and my vision blurring slightly as my skull absorbed the blow. My brain jostled in my head, and my head felt like it was shifting, about to fall off my shoulders at any second if I wasn't already lying down. He dragged the blade across the skin, the underside of my forearm, with malice. Sweat breaking out on his forehead and running down from his hairline in small rivulets. I screamed out and felt the blood flow down my arm, soaking into the rolled up sleeve of the shirt that had been placed on my back. This is missing something. He walked away and came back, but I didn't have a chance to see what was in his hand before he placed it on the wound on my belly. The searing pain caused me to cry out, the curses coming from me, inaudible as unspeakable pain, insulted my body. Salt. He had dumped salt on the wound and rubbed it in to ensure I would scar if, by some miracle, I made it out alive, which he would make sure didn't happen. He had also come back with something else. It was something Hyde had enjoyed using on so many occasions. When they had said they borrowed something of my tools from my room, I didn't think they'd brought this one along for the ride. Terror poured through my veins at the sight of the reciprocating saw Hyde had most recently used to dismember Dax. The blue-eyed beauty that still haunted me. The buzzing sound of this very instrument never left my mind, or my dreams. How many have you slaughtered with this? If you have to guess a number. He probed as he admired it. His gaze moved back to me as he held the blade over my already marred stomach, placing his finger on the trigger that would start the metal blade's back and forth carving motion. I couldn't speak. My vocal cords had ceased working at the sight of the saw hovering over my flesh. My eyes were wide with horror at the thought of this particular tool being used against me, and the torture of just seeing it was enough for me to drop my head of my own doing without Mitch having to even touch me with it. My heart beat so fast I thought I could have a heart attack at any moment. He placed it on my skin so the cold metal barely grazed it, his finger not once leaving the trigger and causing me to whimper in fear. He could do whatever he wanted with that thing. and I'd be powerless to stop it while he laughed hysterically. He lifted his finger and placed it lightly back on the trigger, turning to see my facial expression, then smiled at what he saw. "Oh, your fear is just too sweet," he said as he moved the blade just over my skin. It wasn't touching me, but I had seen Hyde kill just enough men with it to be terrified. "I've always wondered if fear was something you could taste in the blood." His eyes met mine. "Can you?" Confusion. That was all I felt for this question. That and fear of what he'd do if I answered in an unacceptable way. He walked up to my head and slammed his open palm on the rail beside my head, causing me to flinch involuntarily. "Can you?" He smiled at the top of his lungs. He yelled. I remained silent. I couldn't answer his question. Wouldn't. He wanted justification for what he was doing besides Kyle's death, which he knew Kyle deserved for what he had planned. He wanted to know what he was doing was the right thing, and where there was doubt, there was weakness. Their plan was limited because Mitch didn't fully believe in it, so he was fishing for information to change that. Yes, I'd killed Kyle. I'd killed men before him. But who was to say they weren't evil men like Kyle? Did Hyde discriminate in that way? It was hard to believe that Dax was a bad guy in any way, but I needed a happy thought of some kind, even if it was fleeting. I needed to feel that part of me had done the things it did for a reason other than just to kill. I had to believe that no matter how much of a lie it was. "I know what will get your attention," he mused as the large electric blade hovered over me. "And this beauty is already plugged in." He pressed a button, not the little motor roaring into life as the blade hovered not even a foot above my head. It moved back and forth as if it was carving an invisible being, but I knew better. It was just waiting for something to bite into. I wanted to be tough as nails. I truly wanted to be, needed to be. But I couldn't stop the screaming as he moved it just a few inches closer, and then lowered it down the length of my body, stopping right above my navel. He moved it again, but closer to my skin. It was now so close I felt the air of its motion flowing over my skin. It wasn't much, but it was enough to cause more fear to roll within my belly and threaten to spill over. He let it hover there for a moment and then turned it off, watching my expression change from one of sheer terror to one of relief as I let my head fall back on the bed. My breathing was heavy and ragged, and I detected a slight wheeze in it. I had no idea what that meant, but it didn't matter at that moment. What mattered was what Mitch decided would happen next. Now you understand, don't you? You know the terror you've caused your victims, he said as he walked away from me, dropping the saw to the floor. I heard it break, the pieces of it scatter on the ground, the metal blade within the plastic clanging to the floor with an echo. Tears sprang to my eyes again, falling with the gravity of my horror and disbelief. He was truly torturing me. He had cut me, yes, but his goal was pure psychological torture, with just a touch of physical mixed in. It would be enough to drive any person mad. Not knowing whether they would hurt me or not was indeed beginning to make me jumpy, no matter who was around. Even the darkness beyond had a face here, and I was starting to know it well. I wanted to answer him, so I had a decision to make. Would my answer do me any good, or would my bold statement only egg him on? Is this a fear you understand, Mitch? I asked. Were you a victim once? Does that really matter to you? He asked as he came out of the darkness, with another syringe and a bottle of what I could only assume was rubbing alcohol. I knew he didn't care about the sterility of my wound, so there was only one purpose it would serve at this point. It does, I replied. Mitch lifted the syringe to the dim light above me, the colour of the liquid inside of it completely different than what I had come to expect. The clear liquid of the drugs they had been giving me was replaced with a red, opaque liquid that horrified me to my core. He wanted me to see it. He wanted me to know that something new was coming, and he wanted me to be terrified by it. His plan was working, and working well. You know what this is, Blythe? He asked as he seemed to admire the liquid within the syringe. I'm sure you've seen it before. He turned to look at me when I didn't answer. I was shaking already. Nothing that would be injected in these circumstances could be good. Mitch grinned at me, making sure his evil poured into it and out onto the floor around me like a flood. His eyebrows rose with impatience, and he opened his mouth to speak again. I'm going to say, take that as a no. Good. He paused. I get to educate you. It only makes torturing you even more fun. Not that it hasn't already been highly enjoyable. He flipped open the bottle of rubbing alcohol with his thumb and tipped it, letting a few drops fall onto the wound on my belly, a stinging barrage of pain taking over quickly. My breath left me in a hiss. The pain subsided just as fast as it evaporated, but still left a lingering sense of the licking fire. He tipped the bottle again, but this time he squeezed the bottle. A river of rubbing alcohol poured down into the open wound. The pain was sharp, but once it stopped, it started again as the liquid moved over to cover the places it hadn't touched. The sting was intense, coming over and over as he continued to pour it on me, using at least half the bottle before I decided I couldn't take any more. Stop! 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 Oh, please stop! I cried out. Please! The last word was a whisper as he closed the bottle, practically beaming with pride at the torture he was able to impose on me. Stop! Stop! He yelled, coming to stand beside my head. Did you stop when Carl asked you to? Did you stop when any of your victims begged you to? I couldn't take any more pain. I couldn't take any more fear. I wanted to be strong, but all I wanted was for this torment to end, and I didn't care how. Even if it meant meeting my maker a lot sooner than planned. Whatever would come to greet me with that release would surely be better than this. No. No, I didn't, I replied. Kyle was a monster. He deserved what he got. And what about the rest? He asked as he eyed me suspiciously. Did you show them any mercy? No, I sobbed. No. I kept repeating the word over and over, weeping uncontrollably. Mitch won. He broke me, and he knew he had. But that wasn't going to stop him from finishing the plan. So I had to think fast. At least faster than they do. That's what I've been waiting to hear. Does this feel right to you now? Is this justified now? Oh dear, I don't need the validation for this to feel right. This, he pointed at my ruined body with the syringe, always feels right. He admired the red liquid one more time, tapping the syringe lightly to rid it of air bubbles. This is my favourite weapon, though. I'll admit, the reciprocating tool was a lot of fun. I see why you like it. He jabbed the needle into my ribs without warning, pushing the plunger and injecting me with the thick crimson liquid. The pain was instant, flowing through my veins with a searing agony that made it feel as if my veins were on fire. Screams ripped through the air as the pain intensified, slowly dissipating as whatever it was began to numb my nerves at the injection site. Liquid capsicum. The perfect tool for torture. It's not lethal and doesn't cause any damage, so it can be used an infinite number of times. Granted, it does numb the area for a little while, but there are many more places to use it on until the feeling comes back. He chuckled, walking away and back into the black, returning with another syringe filled with the stuff. I cringed and attempted to move away. It didn't seem to matter how many times I tried to escape him. It didn't work. I always tried. Human instinct at its best, and I couldn't bite back the urge for a sarcastic comment, despite the fact that I was sobbing. I'm going to kill you when I get out of here. I don't think so. Plus, there's plenty more where that came from. I always keep liquid capsicum on hand because, well, you never know when you'll need to talk to someone. And you have been the most enjoyable. It's a shame we'll have to kill you soon. Mitch then leaned down above me, the needle down at his side, and pushed my hair away from my face. He took a deep breath in, closing his eyes like he was attempting to memorize what I smelled like. It's really a shame. I froze, though I knew what was coming next. Even though I knew that the syringe filled with what I could only describe as liquid fire was meant to flow through me once again. You don't have to do this, I whispered, hoping that he would see reason once in all of this, and realise that murdering me wouldn't fix a thing. I wanted to bide my time in order to find a way out, to find the way to retaliate through the haze of pain and drugs that Hyde promised was there. Oh, but I do. A monster can't be allowed to live its life maiming and killing innocent men. And that's what you do. Kyle wasn't an innocent man. Kyle was a sick man. Kyle was a monster too. No, Mitch said as he shook his head. Kyle was a human being that couldn't control his urges. There is a difference between what he was and what you are. He reached up and touched his face, touched my face, tracing my jawline, just the tip of his fingers. He could be saved. You can't. And you know what the sad part is? I shook my head in response to his question. You're so beautiful. I almost can't stand the thought of killing you. His expression changed in that instant, and I knew that there wasn't any way I could talk him out of his present course of action. But that doesn't change anything. It doesn't change what we have to do. He jabbed the needle into my thigh and pushed the plunger down, injecting me with the liquid capsicum that would turn my blood into fire within seconds. I screamed in agony as the burning sensation hit like a ton of bricks, surging through my muscle like an unstoppable force. Then something else moved through me, and Hyde unfurled, just barely, from a dark cocoon. The drugs had forced her into. She was there, but barely. Just underneath the surface, but strong enough to use me as a conduit to speak. Heat moved into my eyes as the burn in my thigh ebbed and faded, going numb. That's it, Blythe. Almost there. I heard Hyde speak into my mind as my mouth opened so she could vocalize the man in front of me, just like she had before. Mitch's eyes went wide as he registered the change. You're going to die here, Mitch. You and your little crony. Hyde spat as I felt my vocal cords vibrate with her words. That's impossible. How are you speaking right now? I could see the panic setting in. I've given you enough Liquid X to kill a horse. There are things you don't know about us. Things you can't predict. Things you wouldn't expect. And you're going to have to learn to accept the fact that you and your boss don't know everything there is to know about what we are. She paused for dramatic effect, her eyes meeting his. Things that will get you all killed. No. No, 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 he chanted. He paced back into the darkness, emerging with yet another syringe. This one was filled with the clear, water-like Liquid X I had come to expect to get out of that. There was much more of it than usual. Hyde began to laugh as he fumbled with the plastic cap over the needle, letting it fall to the floor once he finally removed it. Is someone scared of little old me? I'd said. My voice was no longer speaking. I could hear an edge to it that let you know it was the monster inside speaking. Would let you know you were in the presence of evil. I'm just a small, defenseless woman. What is there to be afraid of? She was taunting him. Shut up! Just shut up! He croaked past the anxiety rising in his throat. We could hear it perfectly, and Hyde planned to use it against him. He walked up to me and hovered there, not wanting to come close, just in case. I could tell him Hyde wasn't strong enough yet. Because of the drugs, to do him any real harm. She could only use her words to break him down. Oh, there it is. The scared little boy who took on way too much far too soon. I've been waiting for him to show up, she taunted. A fist slammed into my face, but he didn't do anything to stop her laughter. Shut the fuck up! He yelled. She continued to laugh, making him aware that she was not afraid of him in the slightest. You'll come to regret what you've just done, she said as she pushed as he pushed the needle beneath my skin, our skin, and injected the liquid X into our veins. She was able to say one more thing before she was pushed back into the darkness, dizziness taking over within seconds of injection. I don't break promises, Mitch. And I can promise you that you will die here. Yeah, you keep telling yourself that. He took my face in his hand and looked deep into my eyes, the fear in them gone as the heat Hyde brought to my own faded. You may be beautiful, but remember this. Evil always wears the mask of the beautiful to tempt us. He pushed my face away, roughly, and threw the used syringe onto the floor, turning to walk out of the room, to leave me in the darkness with the spinning walls and the black corners. Then the light above me faded into nothingness, and I was left alone again, with not even Hyde to keep me company.